Hello and welcome to the Mulberry Talent Partners Career Conversation. We're so glad to have you here today. I'm just going to give everyone just a few more seconds to log on. Okay, as people start rolling in, we'll go on ahead and get started. So again, welcome to the Mulberry Talent Partners Career Conversation today. I'm Laura Back. I'm the Director of Marketing and Events for Mulberry Talent Partners. If you are new to us, welcome. We're so glad to have you. Just a quick introduction to Mulberry. We are a full-service staffing and recruiting boutique agency headquartered in Portland, Oregon, with an office also in Silicon Valley in California. We specialize in the professional placement of human resources, professional and financial office, operations, and payroll positions for direct hire, temp to hire, and contract roles. We launched our conversation series in April of this year. Feel free to check us out online at mulberrytalent.com, where you can see links to previously recorded conversations as well as upcoming conversations, which we recently just launched our leadership conversations as well. So be sure to check those out. Today, we are joined by Lauren Francis, who is our fabulous founder and president. Lauren launched Mulberry Talent Partners in 2017, bringing over 25 years of talent acquisition experience. And we are so excited to introduce Lauren McGoodwin, who is the founder and CEO of Contessa. Lauren launched Contessa in 2013 as a way to bridge the gap in resources for women in their careers. And since then, she now reaches over 2 million women a year, helping with online content, online learning resources, and her new book. So I'm going to go on ahead and pass it over to Lauren and Lauren. But I also wanted to let you know we want this to be very interactive. So feel free to use the Q&A function here on Zoom, and we will do our best to answer any and all questions. So without further ado, Lauren and Lauren.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
We are thrilled to welcome you to today's conversation and to have the opportunity to introduce you to our attendees and community. We learned about Contessa last year and have been super fans ever since. We were especially drawn to you and your organization as we are also passionate about supporting job seekers throughout their careers and feel honored to have this opportunity to make a difference in the lives of so many. Today we'll be chatting about Lauren's new book, Power Moves, and how to build a career of purpose. To get started, I would like to take a moment to read an excerpt from Power Moves. Keep in mind that Contessa focuses on guiding women throughout their careers. However, the material covered applies to everyone. If I just work hard and remain committed, I'll have a successful career. I followed my career plan, so why am I not fulfilled? As long as I pick the right college job and/or partner, I can have it all. These are just some of the beliefs that push many women into an ambition trap, leaving them feel burned out, stalled, or lost in their careers. Power Moves is here to break these assumptions and teach women how they can pivot, reboot, and build a career of purpose. So we have a lot to cover this afternoon, so let's jump right in, Lauren. I was actually going to start with what's a power move, but I'm going to just pivot for a second with what are some of the notorious career traps?
Yeah, so I wrote about 4 in my book. One is seeing productivity or busyness as a badge of honor. One is analysis paralysis or overthinking everything. Another one is the myth of the dream job. And the reason why I talked about these traps is because and the 4th one is compare and despair. So comparing yourself to others. And the reason why I talked about these traps is our society literally sets us up to fall into these and to have these kind of trap us or keep us from moving forward. And they're very real. They affect almost everybody. And I think that for women especially, there's this feeling of like, well, if I'm ambitious and if I do certain things right, those traps won't affect me, or I will kind of avoid these. It's pretty hard to avoid them just by thinking that you can check off certain boxes and that they just disappear. It doesn't work like that.
Oh, so well said. So tell us what's a power move?
Yeah. So a power move is an intentional action, habit, or behavior that helps you build a successful and fulfilling career on your terms. The key word there is the word intentional. These are proactive moves that you make in your career versus being reactive. most people are reactive in their career. They react at whatever's coming to them, a new job opportunity, a promotion, you know, my friend knows someone at this company and that's how I fell into advertising, but I never really thought about it. So they're reacting to the career opportunities around them versus being proactive and intentional about what they're doing. Another way to think about power moves is they're not shortcuts to taking the necessary steps that it's required to do what you want to do. They're not quick fixes, right? So think of, you know, there's the fad diet and then there's the lifestyle change. Power moves are part of an overall approach to your career. They're part of your career lifestyle. It's how you go about your career all the time or consistently, not the one-offs, which is why power moves can be daily moves, they can be medium, or they can be big, because like I said, they can be actions, behaviors, habits. Those are all, you know, words to describe power moves.
Again, you know, we've read your book a couple of times. It just really captures it. So, you know, how can you abandon the idea of a dream job? Because this is such, I mean, you may have answered some of this earlier, you know, you probably will, some of this we've covered, but really this idea of a dream job is always been, you know, this
Yeah.
Talk about that for a few minutes.
Yeah, the dream job and the myth of the dream job is a really tough one, because your whole life you're basically taught that, one, it exists, and two, it's totally attainable, and three, what's worse is that you're shamed into feeling like if you haven't found it, especially by a certain age, there's something wrong with you. But the reality is that the dream job doesn't exist, and there's a few reasons why. But the first one is, and a lot of the book came down to kind of understanding expectations, and that's where, kind of like when we talked about trap, it's like the traps. The first trap is the expectation of something and your expectations not being met, right? But why did you have that expectation in the first place? So the dream job, the expectation that people have and what they imagine when they are fantasizing about this is a commute that's 10 minutes and can happen by walking or biking in beautiful weather all the time. A really engaged boss, amazing coworkers that you never disagree with, a cool workspace, being dressed. We were talking about that show, Emily in Paris, right before we got on, like being dressed in fabulous outfits and wearing heels all day. These are part of the fantasy. The fantasy never actually involves any of the harsh realities of, like, what about an absentee boss? What about a coworker that you just can't seem to communicate with? What about the client who's like, I just don't like you, or I don't like your work, or I don't give you feedback in the way that you want, right? And so what happens is when you are fantasizing about all the positives, you never actually take into account anything negative. Well, real life has challenges. It has problems. It has issues. It has things that don't go the way you want them to go. And so what happens is people get into these jobs, and when it doesn't go like that, they're like, oh, this isn't my dream job. I need to find something else. I need to fix it. When you are fantasizing about the dream job, in order to get over this myth, you also need to fantasize about the challenges you're going to have at work and how you will overcome them, because you will have challenges at work. And so that is why, one, the dream job doesn't exist. And the last thing I'll just say about it is, actually, we should all be super thrilled that there isn't one dream job out there for us, because it's like imagining that there's one partner for you in life. Well, what happens if you lost your partner at 25 years old? That's it for you? That's it? You know, what happens if your dream job, you got laid off because of COVID? Does that mean you're done? You never get to have a dream job again? Or how about the fact that throughout your life, your interests might change, your passions might change, where you live might change. And so this fixed idea that something's going to be that all the time for you doesn't work in real life. So it's actually a really good thing that there isn't a one dream job. There's probably a lot of really good fits for you. And the more you know about yourself, the better you'll be able to identify those and kind of hop into them. But the worst part about the dream job is that, like I said, it shames people into feeling like if you haven't found it, somehow you've lost in the game of life, that there's something wrong with you. And then you can do the whole thing where you pay a lot of money to try to fix this. Like, you know, I feel like Instagram is like the place for this, where it's always like, yada, yada, dream job, find your dream job, dream job, dream job. It's just a saying. It's not a reality. And that's the challenge in this life sometimes.
Do you think social media plays into this to some degree?
Absolutely. I think that, and like just, I guess, a personal thing that I don't like about social media sometimes is, for example, and I see this a lot, especially when people maybe are starting their own business as an entrepreneur or a side hustle. It's a highlight reel, right? These are all the glamorous parts of my job, but they never share the part where their boss was frustrated with them, or they didn't get the deal. Or for entrepreneurs, it's like, I saw this girl the other day and she was talking about how, like, if you're not inspired, like, go to the Met in the middle of the day and be creative, and it will, like, yeah. And you're like, first of all, that's extremely privileged point of view. Second of all, show us your bank statement that shows that your side hustle actually makes money, right? And so there can be a lot of like smoke and mirrors that happens on social media. I keep saying Instagram, but all social media. And that certainly just perpetuates these myths and people kind of chasing this elusive thing that doesn't exist. So then you get into this on this hamster wheel where you're just always chasing something, and it's like, well, but the finish line is always moving. So of course you find yourself burnt out. Of course you find yourself feeling like you haven't accomplished much, or dealing with imposter syndrome or a lack of confidence. I mean, the list kind of goes on and on. So yes, I definitely think social media plays a big role in this. They're not going to sponsor me anytime soon, I'm sure.
It's so interesting because, I love the holidays, and I love doing the Christmas card or the holiday card and all that. And I would get so depressed because I get all these wonderful cards and everybody's got the Christmas card.
Yeah.
And everybody looks so great and their life is so great, and look at them, and oh, my life, and oh, look at, all that. And so when Facebook first came out, I was like, oh my God, it's like getting a Christmas card every day. And I was depressed all the time. It's like, look at they're doing that, and they're doing this and doing that. And I just had to shut off. My daughter, actually at 20, she killed it. She stopped because she knew, she goes, why don't I feel good?
Yeah, she's ahead of the curve. More of us need to do that. Literally, one of the traps I talked about, compare and despair, a researcher researched that the actual act of comparison makes you more anxious, more depressed, less able to see clearly about what it is that you want. And that's another thing. It's just like, everything is clouded. Imagine going through life where everything is clouded versus being able to see things clearly. I mean, as to your point, social media is the highlight reel. And now I know people are kind of leaning toward this more like authentic view. It's like, great, a new buzzword to like
capture
to a negative in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, exactly.
I know, it's so true. Goodness. One
comment come in.
Oh, good. Okay.
So Michael says, but can't there be jobs that are in fact a great fit and do satisfy many of those ideals of a dream job, i.e. the good commute, enjoyable work, with realistic expectations?
Yeah, absolutely. I call these your target companies. And I think what's really important is that when you are searching for a company that's going to be a good fit for you, that you start by thinking about, what are your career ideals? So what does success look and feel like to you? Not what society or other people think success looks like, right? So, and millennials, and I talk about this in the book a lot, like, we're the first generation that literally cared more about job titles than we did about salary and benefits, because that's what people first saw on a LinkedIn or at a cocktail party. So to your point, yes, absolutely. The key is that it's the job that's the right fit for you right now versus the job that you're going to be in for the next 30 years. And the other thing is with the expectations is that, you're right. You said realistic expectations. That's absolutely right. Because the expectations people can put on a job too can be dangerous at times. It's like, well, I expect this job to pay for me, engage me, help me grow, be my social life, all these things, right? And it's like, wow, that's asking for a lot from one place. And and that's where I find that people kind of do this thing where they're like, I don't know, I'm not happy in my life, I'm just going to go find a new job. And they think if I change the job, it will change everything else. And, as my mom says, you take yourself wherever you go, so whatever, when it comes to identifying what are your career ideals and what does success look like to you, how do you define success so you can find the job that is the right fit for you, or the company that's the right fit for you. If you're not doing that work, then you are just chasing and staying busy.
Oh, God, that right.
And I'll just say too, like to his point, like I absolutely experienced working at a company. So I was an admin assistant for a university. I hated it. It wasn't for me. I then got a job working in recruiting at Hulu. It was a really good fit for me, but I had done all the work to understand, okay, what type of role do I want to be in? What type of company do I want to work in? What type of commute? How big of a team? The culture, all that kind of stuff. That culture wasn't a good fit for everybody. It was a good fit for me. And I saw a night and day difference working at a place that was a right fit for me versus a place that wasn't a right fit for me. I can tell you now that if I were still working at Hulu and I look back at that job, that probably wouldn't be a good fit for where I am in my life right now. But at the time it was great. So was that a dream job in that moment, in that time of my life, that stage of my life? Absolutely.
Yeah, well put. One of your chapter titles is Treat Your Intuition like your new best friend. And I really want to hear what you have to say about that, because I think it's such an important point to make. How do you do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I focus a lot on inner critic there. It's something I've learned. So, I wrote the book after basically running Career Contessa for almost 7 years, having been a recruiter. And so one of the best parts of my job is that I'm constantly talking to people about what has helped you build a successful and fulfilling career. What are the tricks and tips, and what can you share? And one of the themes I consistently heard over and over again, and this is the challenging part, is because this is the really hard stuff, is a lot of internal things, right? Self-reflection, your own internal narrative. What is the narrative that you tell yourself? How do you manage and work with, not against, that inner critic? Women are especially susceptible to criticizing themselves and, having feelings of imposter syndrome. And so, and we know how important confidence is to going through life, especially in your career. And so your intuition is a little bit more about also managing that inner critic, and how can you turn that in from an inner critic to an inner coach, and use that as a way to help build yourself up. And when you are able to do that, you are able to more easily, or hear yourself more easily, understand, like, okay, what is my intuition telling me? What's my gut? What am I feeling, versus let me look around for the answer, because my inner critic is telling me I'm too stupid to figure this out. You made the wrong decision before, so you won't be able to make the right decision. I see this happen a lot if people have selected a job or accepted a job that they thought they were going to love, and when they don't love it, it's like they start to question themselves. They start to say, like, well, you can't be trusted to pick a new job. Look at what you did this time. And again, it's about really changing that narrative from the inner critic to an inner coach. Okay, what did we learn from picking this last job? Why did, in hindsight, why did we end up picking that job? Maybe we had to pick this job because we needed the money and the benefits. And this is actually a bridge career or bridge job. And actually, if we rechange the way we talk about this job, we realize that I didn't make a mistake. I made the best decision with what I had available to me, and I'm doing what I have to do to figure out what I want to do next, right? And so I just, the more I've sort of like talked to people, the work on mindset and self-talk, those things, I know we always want to put them to the side because they don't have that tangible, actionable piece to them sometimes, but they're really, really, really valuable and really important skills to learn, which is, managing that inner critic, coming up with some sort of maybe a career mantra that you print out and put on your desk and say out loud, and really become your own hype man or woman.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of shame too.
Mm-hmm.
And many times when I'm working with candidates and they have, let's say, a complicated exit or transition from a company, and they feel so, they're just paralyzed.
Yeah.
To try to help them to see it differently and use my words to help influence them and help them start to absorb those words so that they can, the shame to pass through that period.
Yeah.
And to be able to express it with confidence and with ease. And that's how we help coach people. And I also think too, that many times many people look at a job description and they'll go, well, I don't have this or that or this. And it's like, no, this is what you bring. take it, you take a different approach. It's about what you bring. It's not what you don't have. And so many times we just sort of sabotage ourselves so early in the process. And it's so, why are we doing that to ourselves?
Yeah. I often say that people look at careers like everything has to live within a box. And it's like, it's not a box with these very strong right angles. Think of this as a squiggly little line that you can kind of mold and shape as you need to. Like, the way to find a job today is totally different than it was before. You know, the fact that you don't meet every single qualification that they put on there, maybe they don't even know totally what they're looking for. And you can actually show them like, hey, I know you guys are looking for an account executive who's done X, Y, Z. I don't know if, you know, I feel confident I can figure out that, because here's what I did that's actually even more valuable than that. And so it's like taking this approach, and that's why confidence is so important to, you know, getting a job, staying in a job, and just like being able to advocate for yourself, being able to recognize, okay, I don't have this, but I have that. And here's how this is actually a benefit to you. At the end of the day, this is what I tell people. It's very simple. Companies are hiring someone because they have a problem or a challenge at work that they need someone to come in and solve. If it's an admin assistant, the problem is that they need someone to answer the phone. If you're a recruiter, the problem is that they need to hire people and get butts in seats, right? Whatever it is, that's why they're hiring. They're not doing it just for fun, right? They're going to give you benefits and they're going to give you pay, and that's going to be the exchange here. So think about it. How are you going to benefit this company? How can you come in and help them? Don't worry about their list. Yes, there may be some skills that they want to know you've done this before, because they don't have the time to train you. They want you to come in and be able to hit the ground running. But at the end of the day, maybe you don't have that skill, but what else do you have that can benefit them? And I guarantee you have a transferable skill. And creative problem solving is a big piece of that, which is why inner critic and self-sabotage and self-talk and all these things end up playing a role. It's like, before you maybe even apply for a job, what I always tell people is do some self-reflection and write down all the amazing accomplishments and wins and successes that you've had. Because literally our brain is programmed toward negativity bias, meaning we are so much faster and quicker to see the negative in something than the positive. So before you even go into applying for jobs, I would write down all the amazing things you've done and really think back on your accomplishments. Take the time to have informational interviews or interview your past coworkers about why they liked working for you. Like, get the biggest confidence boost you can, because job searching is going to cut you off at the kneecaps. It does it to even the most accomplished and successful people. Deal with imposter syndrome. Meryl Streep literally said, I don't know why anybody wants to go watch my movies anymore. And it's like, we're like, are you kidding? Mm-hmm. Everyone deals with imposter syndrome. And so you just have to be staying one step ahead of that stuff too.
Well, and I think too, you know, you can't do this alone.
No.
It takes a village. Build a community and reach out to people like, you know, organizations like Mulberry, and reach out, have an advocate, have someone help you with that back and forth, and have that blog. And when people sit behind a screen and apply to jobs, oh my gosh, that is just not the way to do it.
Yeah.
You've got to have a people around. You need coaches and champions and cheerleaders. And people that aren't doing that for you, then maybe you need to take a break.
Yeah. And I think one of the best, if you're like looking for that in your life, go be it for somebody else. Start by giving that, and it's going to come back to you. You're going to create a support. Literally, when I was doing the research for my book, I was trying to figure out like, what is the key to fulfillment? That's sort of like a big question to sort of answer. I finally found some researchers who like did research on this, and literally the key to fulfillment and being fulfilled in your life was relationships. It was your support system. It was the people you had, which is why the people you work with is important, which is why the people you keep in your life is important. It's why when you're going through a job search, it's really important to have support. Get in a job search accountability partner. Start a job search, club with other people who are job searching. Right. When I first started Career Contessa, I had a woman who was doing something on the East Coast, kind of similar. And she had this brilliant idea where she was like, let's just have a standing phone call every other Friday for an hour. Had it not been for those phone calls, I would have absolutely quit entrepreneurship. Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, so support matters. Sometimes they get you on the day where they're your cheerleader. Sometimes they get you on the day where they're like, I don't know about this idea. Are you sure you want, like, you need that. And we need a variety of that. So like I said, if you're looking for that, start by being that for somebody too.
No, that's incredibly sound advice. You know, and the other one that we kind of got into this, but you know, I was going to ask you a question, but I love how you define circle of champions. I mean, how that captures it so beautifully.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically what we just talked about. Find your circle of champions. Who's the person who plays devil advocate with you? Who's the person who doesn't agree with everything you say? Who's the person who is your cheerleader and it's like thinks you are the best thing since sliced bread? You know, like have those people in your life, be that for other people, cultivate those relationships. You know, I get asked a lot about like networking and informational interviews, and I always tell people, like, if you're not going to spend 5 years having this relationship or more, then don't spend the 5 minutes sending that person the cold email. It's not worth it, because the whole point of networking is to cultivate relationships. It's not the transaction of like, let me get on the phone with you and then ask you for a job offer. It doesn't work like that. You know, so please, like, be thoughtful about that when you're doing it. And with the circle of champions, it's sort of, and also just to also talk about this, like, it's important to also recognize sometimes it runs its course. Sometimes the person who was your wing woman in your career earlier in your career, it's not a fit anymore. You guys, you know, maybe every time you talk to her, you walk away feeling like, I don't know, I just feel like she's negative about what I'm doing or whatever it is. Like, also toxic personalities, whether they're at work or in your life, you got to get rid of those. You know, you wouldn't keep something toxic in your water. Like, don't keep people who are toxic in your life.
So true. We had a couple more questions come in. So Rima says, some recruiters say not to apply for a job unless you meet 80% of the qualifications. So if you don't have those when you're applying, how do you get past that ATS, and how do you show your kind of transferable skills?
Well, I just want to preface it by, recruiters are humans. So we all have opinions. We all have preferences with certain things. Like, I prefer a one-page resume where another recruiter might be fine. So whatever one recruiter told you, that's just one recruiter. The bottom line is, if you do need to get through an applicant tracking system, what I always tell people is like, look, this is a system you got to get through. So you're going to want to tailor your resume to how it's going to get through the applicant tracking system. The other thing I believe is that, fine, apply via whatever online system they want, and then find a real person to send your resume to. Send that beautiful PDF that is easy to read, but applicant tracking systems don't really like PDFs. Most of them can't read them. So it's like, you're going to fill it out. That all comes down to the keywords. So whether you have 80% or 100%, you could have 100%. You could literally have been doing the same job and you just type in the wrong words and the applicant tracking system doesn't recognize it. So I don't know, Lauren, if you have other opinions on this, but I don't think that you should only be applying to jobs when you hit 80%. Also, I would have a hard time even understanding where the 80% line is on a job description for me.
You define your own line.
Yeah.
You know, and I always say your career is up to you, meaning you make it happen and you are the engine, and it's not all these barriers out there that are saying, no, you can't have this, or you're an older worker, or you don't have enough experience, or all this. Well, you know who you are and you know what you bring. And it's important to have that mindset when you approach. And you know what, when you start to build that muscle, so many things change in your life. It is extraordinary. It's extraordinary to watch people. And I know, Lauren, we're both doing the same kind of work, which we're such champions for people, and we want their success.
Yeah.
So much. And so just wanting to share that. So, we have to go.
Oh, we're out of time. We did have a couple more questions that came in, and maybe in an email out to attendees, we'll do our best to answer those two that came in. Just to share, these are our upcoming conversations. Next week, we're going to be welcoming career coach Stacey Lane, who's going to discuss how to leverage your LinkedIn and create your personal brand. And then in early November, we're going to have Dana Pratt on to talk about networking and why it's not just for job seekers, why it's important throughout your entire career. And then just in closing, this is how you can stay in touch with Mulberry Talent Partners and with Career Contessa. I'd encourage you to follow us on all different channels, including Career Contessa. Career Contessa on their Instagram is incredible in terms of content. So wealth of information for people at all stages of their careers. So thank you, Lauren and Lauren, for an incredible conversation today. And thank you to everyone who attended. We know you have lots of options when it comes to webinars. So we really value your time.
Thank you so much.
Have a good, thanks Lauren for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.